Now here's a question. Will Jimmy Carr, or would Jimmy Carr or Netflix fall foul of a new law which is being proposed by Nadine Dorries? Now, I think people have responsibilities, even on social media. You know, we got the story recently of Joe Rogan. And we can apologise for the things that we say, but we cannot erase what was said, nor can we unsay something. A few years ago, there's this man called David Coburn, and David Coburn made a particularly ill-judged comment about a man called Humza Yousaf. In fact, he compared Humza Yousaf. He was asked, where is Humza Yousaf? Because they were supposed to be doing a radio program at the same time, Humza and David Coburn. David Coburn was the only MEP in the UKIP party for Scotland, and he said, oh, Humza Yousaf, well, as I call him, Abu Hamza. Well, Abu Hamza is and was a convicted terrorist whose hands have been blown off while he was making bombs. Humza Yousaf was at that time, I think at that time he was a minister in the Scottish Parliament. He's now the Minister for Health, and a member of the Scottish National Party. Well, I spoke to Humza Yousaf. In fact, I caused a bit of a fuss about it. And Nigel Farage, in response to all this, said that it's just a joke. It's just a joke. And he didn't do anything about it. I just think that's wrong, because a joke doesn't cause personal offence to that degree. In a joke, you're not there is no comparison between a minister for the Crown and a convicted terrorist. You can't sort of throw this off over a pint of beer. Nigel Farage was utterly wrong. And with Joe Rogan, it's not enough for him to say, oh yeah, well, I used that word because Tarantino or Lenny Bruce or Paul Mooney have used it. Times and context change, and we have to adapt to a changing situation. We have a new standard of what is right. We have a new standard of morality. Morality is not constant. Morality is always improving. And so we get to Boris. And I think Boris falls at the same hurdle. It's no good for Boris to behave like his hero Winston Churchill. It's no good for Boris to be knocking back champagne, dictating speeches from his bath and so on. This may have been acceptable practice in 1940. It is no longer acceptable practice. And that sort of buffoonery, you can't do this in an age of social media, in an age where news is immediate. Even if Boris had the charisma and the gravitas of Churchill, I don't think it would be possible today. Nadine Dorries, let's come back to her. Nadine Dorries said that 97%, in fact she was interviewed this morning on Sky TV when she was told about the fact that Nick Gibb, a former minister, had now joined those Conservative MPs who had put in a letter to the 1922 committee. So at the moment, we know that I think 14 MPs have now submitted letters. So Nadine Dorries said, well, that's only 97% of the parliamentary party who have submitted letters. I don't see that. Her maths is wrong. I mean, it's not the only thing that is wrong about Nadine Dorries, but clearly she cannot do maths. So she's up there with Priti Patel, who also incidentally cannot do maths. If you have 365 MPs, 97% would not be 14. I mean, this is nonsensical. So the percentage is getting greater. And it's not just Remainers, which is the other way she characterises these people. And even Rishi Sunak is distancing himself from the Prime Minister. He says that he wouldn't have said what the Prime Minister said about Jimmy Savile. Well, I think that was a particularly ill-judged. I think that was a particularly ill-judged comment at the dispatch box. But it does something quite interesting, because if Rishi Sunak and other ministers can persuade Boris to resign over the Jimmy Savile comment, then presumably the party's issue is something quite different, and the party's issue would then retreat. So Boris would not be resigning because of parties, at which so many of these other ministers have been present. I'm sure there will be photos to show Rishi Sunak standing next to Boris cutting his cake on his birthday. I am sure of this. Sunak and Gove must be relishing that comment at the dispatch box, misjudged though it may be. And yet Nadine Dorries is determined to defend Boris. I don't understand it. I don't understand why she is such a determined flag waver. And maybe Nadine Dorries will go down waving her flag, smiling in a winsome way and a little bit stale. Is it the flag that's stale or Nadine Dorries? I don't know. Anyway, there's certainly some old rags being whipped around in the wind. But who would do the job when Boris is gone? We come back to that same issue again. And then we're back to social media and her ineptitude. To see that look of panic etched on her face as more bumbling nervousness as she's being interviewed. And this morning it was an interview about online safety and her online safety bill and the priority offences, which seem to grow. The more she's questioned, and the more the opposition spokesperson for media says, "Well, this isn't in the bill. This isn't in the bill." Well, you haven't read it, she says. You haven't read it because we haven't told you everything that's in the bill. And we're going to put that in. We're going to put that in. Oh yes. And then she comes back to Jimmy Carr. Would Jimmy Carr's comments about Roma fall under the remit of this new online offences bill? No, it wouldn't, she says. No, it wouldn't. But she does refer to his comments as scurrilous. Now, I looked them up. And Jimmy Carr says, well, yeah, they're edgy, but they're educational. Educational. I don't really understand. I've heard the joke. I know the joke. I don't really understand. It's just offensive. And seems to me to be wholly wrong. The other day I was talking to a classroom about the slaughter of at least 500,000 Roma during the Second World War within the context of the wider Holocaust. I'm afraid I didn't feel it necessary to draw on Jimmy Carr's joke, or Jimmy Carr. I didn't feel it necessary to call up Jimmy Carr and say, Jimmy, hey, look, I need some educational advice. Educational advice is about giving information, is about encouraging students to go and find information. It's not about telling edgy, scurrilous, and offensive jokes. If you want an edgy, scurrilous, offensive joke, you go to David Coburn and that ex-MEP for UKIP. That's where you find your edgy and scurrilous jokes. Or now, clearly, Jimmy Carr. These things should never have been said. You can't take back these edgy, scurrilous jokes because of the nature of social media. It's all there. It's you can't remove it. And a new online safety bill needs to recognise that you can't remove, you can't clear what has been said. It has been said. What we need to do now is work out how to deal with these things. And in other words, it's all about contextualising and informing. It is actually about educating, not erasing, not censoring, but educating so that things are seen in proper context, so people know what reality is. They're not stuck in some form of mad world where they are dependent on television or social media for their reality. Their reality is based on truth. That's it.